So we're in this lovely QuestLife space, women sharing their stories across generations, across different backgrounds. We have Yvonne Roberts, Zena Edwards, Hyacinth Myers, Christine Dean, and myself, Melanie Abrahams. So let's just get on with answering the questions. So one of these questions is asking us, how much did you know about the menopause growing up?
I would say that in terms of growing up, there's very little conversation about menopause amongst black women, amongst young girls, because it wasn't at the forefront of our minds, and because our parents didn't talk about it, we didn't think about it as a subject that we needed to look into. So it's only when it happens to you and then you start to think about, well, what is this condition that I have? Then you suddenly start talking to other people that you know, close friends, and that's when the conversation about menopause starts to occur. So I don't think growing up is the time. I think it's more when it hits, that's when you have the discussion.
I don't know. I think that I always heard it referred to as the change, going through the change.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about it called the change, and I suppose one of the things I felt was that sounded almost like slightly taboo, slightly stigmatizing, you know, and also I heard it more, I suppose, within kind of everyday kind of English speech, but not necessarily in terms of my Caribbean heritage.
How can women cope with the impact of menopause on their physical health? I think in terms of other physical issues, food like diabetes is important, but sometimes you don't link it to menopause, which for me, I found in terms of my research and looking into menopause and how to treat that, I've seen the link to diabetes, which I also have, and also to the food that I eat.
The food thing, yes. I mean, I stopped eating so much sugar because sugar automatically brings on a hot flash. Sugar, coffee, alcohol. Like literally a sip of, I don't really drink wine, I've never really drunk wine. But if I have a gin and tonic or rum and coke or something at someone's party, like there's literally within seconds, I will have a hot flash. The one thing I've really come to appreciate having the menopause is that I'm having to recognize that, I'm getting older, I'm not as athletic. I was quite an athletic 20-year-old, 17, and did quite a lot, played basketball, running and high jump and all of that stuff. But I realize that now I have to be kinder to myself in terms of thinking, okay, I have to go slow. It's okay to go slower. Actually, this is a completely different tempo of life. I live in London, which is like fast. But actually, going slow and go around me. I'm not, go, if you want to go past, if you're in a hurry, go around me, and because it's a different tempo of life, because the way I process the world, even in my thinking, has slowed down. I'm much more thoughtful, I'm much more meditative, I'm much more patient, and it helps me to understand the world differently. I'm just accepting that getting older means there's things that I can't do the way I'd push my body in the same way as I did when I was younger.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to give yourself permission to stop, to give yourself time to meditate, to say, this is self-care Saturday or Sunday, or I'm not doing anything today, or I'm doing less, or walking slower, just taking everything at a slower pace. And I think that is, once you get to that point where you can do that for yourself, then you can feel the difference. But I think it's hard for us to get to the point to say it is okay to do nothing, and it is okay to accept that my life has changed and my physicality has changed, and therefore I need to look after my mental health as well as my body.
It's never nothing in that, we might be repairing ourselves, we might be needing to be in a space of reflection, or we just might need to, spend that valuable time with people, because nowadays it's quite easy as well for us to not connect with friends as we did before, because everyone gets so busy. And I find that another part of my kind of well-being is just making time for friends as and when I can, like snatching that time,
In your personal experience, how did you feel during and after the menopause, if applicable? During, I just had lots of the night sweats. My symptoms was the night sweats, which is why I first started going to my GP when I was 41, but they just kept saying you're too young. And they wasn't doing and it depends on where you live in the country, so they wasn't doing the hormone test. They said they don't do it if you're over 40, but I've since found out from other friends, depending on where you live, they will. And now I'm on the other side of it. Now, oh my gosh, I'm just glad everything has just stopped. Yes, I started my menopause at 42 and everything finished at 49. So 2 years of freedom, like, yeah, it's early because I've got friends now, late 50s, not even started their menopause yet. But I'm just glad on the other side, no more night sweats, no anxiety in the night, no insomnia.
One of the menstruation to menopause programs kind of aims was to connect women who could share kind of experiences. Did you find that useful, just the idea of spaces to connect, to talk?
I did, and I thought it was actually really useful. I mean, I'm glad I found it at the time because it took 4 years for me to be diagnosed. My doctor just kept on doing a lot of, you're not going through that. And 4 years it took me to kind of fight to be referred to a gynecologist. And on the first session, they was like, you're in the menopause, why didn't you come before? And I was like, because my doctor said it's too young.
Because I guess one of the things that they don't tell you is that, for example, perimenopause isn't a medical condition. It's part of the life cycle, it's part of the reproductive life cycle. And so if you kind of knew that in advance, it wouldn't just take you by surprise, Yeah. I was in my 40s when I started to get perimenopausal, but I was also hoping that I might have a baby. And so I was kind of going through the aspect of dealing with fertility issues and experiencing that, and I wasn't sure if it would be possible. And then luckily I managed to have, a daughter in my late 40s, and then in a way immediately went into the menopause, which isn't the usual kind of life cycle, but it's my cycle, and there are blessings, and I just take the blessings and deal with the rest as and when I can.
I think we need to raise awareness. I think that's my big thing or bugbear in terms of it's all right for us to have a conversation around this table, but we need to pay it outwards and also raise awareness where we can if we've got a platform, because Black women and ethnic minorities, I wouldn't say, global majorities are not promoted in terms of trying to help themselves, but also have a greater knowledge about what's out there that they can have in terms of help and guidance in terms of their own physical health. So I think that's one of the things that we can try to do.
I think also to make it a celebration as opposed to some kind of dreaded thing that you've got to go through. It's, make it something you can celebrate the same way as you get, I don't know if they do it so much now, like give people keys at 18 and 21, celebrate coming into another phase of womanhood, I think.
I mean, it's the other end, but it's like when I started my periods, it was just like quiet, secret. Whereas now they actually have like parties for the girls and things, and it's, I remember making a thing for my daughter. It's, I can't remember what I did, but I just made a point of it. We had a little private ceremony, and so I think likewise we could probably have something more public. It's just like end of hot flushes. Card factory, your hot flushes have ended. Congratulations. I don't know.
That would be a quick party.
But no, I think sort of culturally we could certainly make a thing of it that, as I call it now, I'm entering my eldership. But whatever time it happens to you, if you wanted to, maybe as a family celebration, say, I recognise that I've reached a milestone or there has been a change, and it's, we can just have it. Any excuse for a tea party.
Make media as well. Make content about it, I think, and not just for socials, but just, like I said, I've written poetry about it. And when I get a platform, I will share it.
In terms of symptoms, how do these present differently due to ethnicity and background?
And then I mentioned in terms of the hot flushes, which I now call power surges. We don't call them power surges. Yeah, they're not hot flushes, they're power surges. Is that it presents in the sweating for us, so that we can see that in terms of the physicality of it. There's no redness or pinkness, so when you're trying to explain that to someone, or if someone's observing your uncomfortableness, they don't recognise it as being a menopausal symptoms, whereas we would recognise if you got a fan out, I would know straight away. Yeah. If I saw beads of sweat, I would know straight away. So, that is how it's different with global majority Black women.
I think in order to explore how it varies across ethnicity, one needs to care about ethnicity. And the census at the moment hasn't even caught up with the people, in that there are still categories where if you're not within the categories, you're other. And at the moment, I'm other. Do you know what I mean? Even in 2023, even though, I'm not from Mars. So I've got 2 Caribbean parents, but I have a mixed ethnicity in that I don't have a white parent, I don't have a white grandparent. So I'm very mixed race, with African heritage, but also Chinese, Amerindian, European, you know what I mean? So if they can't really understand or define ethnicity yet, then they probably haven't really researched all the different aspects that affect different people of different ethnicities. And they probably haven't also gone into what's affecting, as we become more mixed race as a world, like how are things manifesting? That would be really fascinating to know, wouldn't it? Like, are things actually changing as we mix more in terms of how symptoms present themselves? I'd love to know that research.
How can we encourage more open conversation about menopause between friends, family, colleagues and partners? I think having the menopause party is one of the best ideas we've come away with here. And I just think we just need to start doing them so they become commonplace. So where are you going? Oh, to a menopause party. That's great. And that is a reason to sort of women to get collectively together. And then your husbands, your partners, your children aren't going to think this is a bit odd and weird. Why is she doing that? When everybody's doing it. And because everybody's got, a female stroke mother somewhere along, in their family relationships, or extended families. So if we're all having menopause parties, then it becomes as common as birthday parties, graduations and all the rest of it. So I think that's one way that we could do that.
Presents obligatory.
Yeah, definitely presents. Presents must come.
I was going to also say, just speaking openly, because I have 2 sons, like 17 and 24. And when I say to my youngest one, when I've been talking about menopause, he said, "Where are you going today?" "I'm going to film about menopause." "Oh, not them women's issues again." I'm like, who told you it's women's issues and you don't want to speak about it? In school, that's what they kept on saying, "Oh, it's women's issues." And I was like, but you're going to have
daughters, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. He keeps on talking about having a wife since he was about 4 or 5. Right, okay. So I was like, so you need to know about the stuff, actually. And it's not just women's issues, you need to know about it.
I think there is that desire from men to also have that knowledge, but we probably want to present it in a way that is not palatable, but digestible, I think. So these are the key nuggets, that the changes in the level of hormones, it's going to have this impact. It's going to be physical, mental and emotional. Some of the symptoms are, and we can literally do that.
I think what you've said, Zena, about us valuing our life cycles, being able to talk about it frankly, being able to share it with each other is key as well. Because we'll know, for example, what someone's studying or what they work at. You know what I mean? Like we have all this kind of knowledge, so why then not know about what is factoring importantly within our kind of everyday lives? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Alongside what we're studying and what our aspirations are. So I think, just enabling that more to happen, I think, is really important.
How have Holland and Barrett helped to support your work through the Women of Wellbeing Fund?
Well, QuestLife has been lucky to be a recipient of the Wellbeing of Women Fund, and one of the things that we'll be doing is developing the Menstruation to Menopause programme, which you were part of, Hyacinth, and Christine, you're part of Revive, but that in some ways is connected to that programme in terms of the aspect of sharing stories across generations. And Yvonne, you were part of Menstruation to Menopause as well, which, again, there's an aspect that we are developing more situations where we can have workshops, have spaces for shared knowledge, have salons. And Zena, you're now charting aspects of your menopause journeys, but also the work that you're doing with the environment and with your project that explores nature and poetry, I think is, again, something that we want to kind of work with and connect to. So I think there's a lot to be had with regards to the opportunity that we have within this project to have more occasions of this kind where we can converse and share our stories, but also really put this aspect of equity, the importance of equity, of being seen forward, because I think there's this aspect now of, because of the shifts with regards to hospitals, it's a question of, will we be seen? Will we be seen by hospitals? Can we be seen by the doctor? If the doctor will see us now, will he? Will she? You know what I mean? There's that kind of aspect. But there's also the aspect of whether or not we're being seen in terms of recognised for the specificity of our kind of cultural backgrounds, of our heritages, of the nuances of what we need. And I think in some ways we can use within QuestLife the aspect that we're already writing, we're all writing around this table. Some of us are doing podcasts, some of us are already in conversation about these stories. So I think the more we amplify them, the better. It's been really lovely having this held space, a space held by all of us, where we shared our stories. So thank you so much, Yvonne, Zena, Hyacinth, Christine.
You're welcome. It's been a real pleasure being here.
Power Stone.
Power
Power
Stone.
Stone. QuestLife.